I trusted you. I gave you a good life in the Ponderosa. Do you repay me by stealing my cattle?
Nah, but as soon as I get a dozen more feet down to my diggings, I'll come back and buy your whole ranch.
There may be plenty of Western series out there, but few have captured the hearts of fans quite like NBC's Bonanza.
After the show, do we have dinner together?
After the show, you asked me then.
With an impressive 14-season run, the show earned a spot on TV Guide's list of the 50 greatest TV shows of all time, and for good reason.
They must be out of their minds.
Bonanza stood out not just for its action and drama, but for its focus on meaningful moral dilemmas.
Sorry I raised my hand to you.
Oh, go on, son. It's your brother asking you for forgiveness.
Yet despite its success, the series came to an abrupt and heartbreaking end, thanks to one particular moment that changed everything.
Hey, Pa, you and Adam better get out of here. There's people all over the place. They come to see the wild man.
There may be plenty of Western series out there, but few have captured the hearts of fans quite like NBC's Bonanza. With an impressive 14-season run, the show earned a spot on TV Guide's list of the 50 greatest TV shows of all time, and for good reason. Bonanza stood out not just for its action and drama, but for its focus on meaningful moral dilemmas. Yet despite its success, the series came to an abrupt and heartbreaking end, thanks to one particular moment that changed everything. Created by David Dortort, Bonanza premiered on NBC on September 12, 1959, and aired its final episode on January 16, 1973. Over the course of its 431 episodes, the show followed the lives of the Cartwright family, a tight-knit group living on the sprawling Ponderosa Ranch near Lake Tahoe. Audiences were drawn in by the show's rich storytelling and the moral questions that often lay at the heart of each episode. The patriarch of the family, Ben Cartwright, was a thrice-widowed father with 3 sons from different marriages. The eldest, Adam, a level-headed architect who built the ranch. The kind and burly Eric Hoss Cartwright, and the impulsive youngest Joseph Little Joe. They were joined by Hop Sing, the family's loyal and beloved Chinese cook. The show's enduring appeal came not just from its plots, but from its characters. Legendary performances by Lorne Greene as Ben and Michael Landon as Little Joe brought these roles to life and made the series unforgettable. Despite the Cartwrights' wealth and the beauty of the Ponderosa, the show emphasized that true fulfillment went far beyond material riches. One of Bonanza's groundbreaking elements was how it used the ranch as more than just a backdrop. It was integral to the narrative. This helped define the genre for decades, influencing countless other westerns. However, Bonanza wasn't immune to the challenges that long-running series face. Over time, cast changes became inevitable. In 1965, Pernell Roberts, who played Adam, left the show. He was critical of the way Bonanza romanticized the lives of wealthy ranchers and dismissed it as junk TV. Despite his disapproval, Roberts portrayed Adam through 6 seasons and became a role model for many viewers. He longed for more serious, complex roles, something the show couldn't offer. To fill the gap left by Roberts, producers introduced a new character, Will Cartwright, played by Zorro star Guy Williams. While this seemed like a promising move, fans didn't warm to the character and the idea was quickly dropped. Instead, the show began featuring honorary family members, which fans received more favorably. But what ultimately brought Bonanza to a close? It all came down to a tragic, real-life event. Dan Blocker, who portrayed the lovable Hoss Cartwright, died unexpectedly on May 13, 1972, due to complications from surgery. His death shook not only the cast and crew, but also the entire fan base. Just like his character, Blocker was known for his warmth and good-natured spirit. At the time of his passing, the team was preparing to film the 14th season. Scripts had already been written, but Blocker's death forced the production to rethink everything. Hoss was such a central figure that continuing without him proved emotionally and creatively difficult. Michael Landon, who was both directing and producing the show at the time, later spoke about how hard it was to return to the set. "Everyone was trying to pretend things were normal," he said. recalling how they avoided the dining room that first day back, the place where he, Dan, and Lorne had shared so many laughs over the years. Reports from the Chicago Tribune revealed that 14 scripts were ready before Blocker passed, and another 12 were in development. But creator David Dortort admitted most of those had to be scrapped or significantly revised. One scrapped episode centered around Hoss searching for a witness to prove Little Joe's innocence in a murder case. Another, planned as a 2-hour season opener, involved Hoss getting married, only to have his wife tragically murdered. Landon had written it himself, but had to rework it entirely. Despite efforts to adapt, the show couldn't regain its footing. Ratings declined, and NBC's decision to move Bonanza from its prime Sunday night slot to Tuesdays further hurt its performance. Eventually, the inevitable happened. On November 16, 1972, NBC officially canceled Bonanza. The news came as a blow to the cast and crew. Lorne Greene expressed disappointment, saying, "If we had known it was ending, we would have gone out with a bang, not a whimper." He was surprised the show had even been renewed after Blocker's death and felt that NBC should have allowed them to finish the season on their terms. And just like that, one of television's most beloved westerns came to an end, not with a grand finale, but with the quiet absence of a character no one could replace. Apart from that, the cast and crew had hoped to pay tribute to Dan Blocker, but sadly they were never given the opportunity. Some people probably would have preferred an hour-long memorial for Dan, Landon shared, but that just wasn't something we could do. Instead, we tried to honor him the way we believed he would have wanted. Bonanza aired its final episode on January 16, 1973. However, this was not the last one the cast had filmed. After enjoying years as one of television's highest-rated programs, the series came to an underwhelming end with little fanfare, wrapping up a run of 431 episodes. Reactions to the show's cancellation were mixed, but sadness and disappointment seemed to dominate. Interestingly, Lorne Greene didn't share that sentiment. For him, the show's end was a blessing. It opened the door to new creative pursuits and allowed him to explore different projects that could challenge him as an actor. He was already being courted with offers, including a Universal World premiere film, narration work with NBC documentaries, and, of course, his annual appearance in the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. Although Dan Blocker's death and declining ratings played major roles in the series' cancellation, another challenge threatened the show's survival early on. It's strange to think now, but watching TV in black and white used to be standard. In fact, Bonanza made history as the first series filmed and broadcast entirely in color. At the time, RCA, the Radio Corporation of America, used the show to spark public interest in color television. That innovation came at a high price, though. The steep production costs nearly got the show pulled in its infancy. Fortunately, changing its broadcast slot from Saturday to Sunday helped boost its ratings and gave Bonanza the exposure it needed to become a hit. For those unfamiliar with how the series concluded, the final episode, The Hunter, was among the darkest stories the show ever told. Directed by Michael Landon, it introduced viewers to Corporal Bill Tanner, a disturbed man who had spent his life in captivity and now roamed freely, killing at will. His next target? Little Joe. The episode followed Little Joe as he desperately tried to stay alive. Unlike typical Bonanza plots, this one was grim and intense, entirely new territory for the series. Oddly enough, it was also the shortest script they ever produced. While intriguing, it didn't captivate audiences or deliver the type of closure fans longed for. The fates of Ben Cartwright and Little Joe were left uncertain. In the end, seeing Corporal Tanner die without managing to kill Little Joe may have symbolized the show's own quiet fade into history. Still, despite a lackluster conclusion, Bonanza made its mark on the Western genre. Its legacy endures, thanks in large part to the unforgettable performances of the 4 actors who brought the Cartwright family to life. Now that we've revisited the final scene that marked the end of Bonanza, let's delve into some behind-the-scenes stories that many fans may not know. One of the show's most iconic images is its opening sequence, the four Cartwrights riding across the screen on horseback. These horses became almost as recognizable as the actors themselves. But in 1970, a disturbing rumor sent shockwaves through the fan base. A viewer named Charlene Boyles wrote to the Cincinnati Enquirer's trivia column, asking whether it was true that the Cartwrights' horses had been shot and killed. She also questioned whether Michael Landon had offered a reward for catching the culprit. Producer Richard Collins responded. While he confirmed that the horses weren't shot, he did reveal that they had been harmed, and tragically, not all of them survived. Michael Landon's horse was among those lost. Devastated by the death of his equine companion, Landon promptly offered a reward for any information that could lead to justice. Unfortunately, no one ever came forward. The cast mourned the animal's death, and the show moved on. Landon was given a new horse, a black and white Pinto, who went on to appear with him at rodeos and public events. This new companion, however, had a fiery personality. In 1964, during a Houston rodeo, a woman named Emma Thompson approached Landon while he was mounted. Out of nowhere, the horse bit her and even severed the tip of her finger. Luckily, Thompson took it in stride. She laughed off the incident and showed her bandaged finger to reporters from the Tampa Times. Landon personally visited her to express his sympathy. Dan Blocker, too, had a rough time with his horse. Unlike Landon's playful nip, Blocker's experience was downright painful. During one shoot, his horse threw him off and broke his collarbone. But instead of seeking immediate medical care, Blocker chose to set the bone himself and continue filming so as not to delay production. Only after wrapping up did he visit a hospital, where he spent 6 weeks recovering. Since Bonanza ran for 14 seasons and had high production costs, especially due to filming in color, producers had to find creative ways to cut corners. One such trick was keeping the characters in the same outfits for nearly every episode. This allowed them to reuse stock footage more easily and save money on reshoots. Over time, the long run began to show on the cast. Dan Blocker was the first to wear a hairpiece to hide his thinning hair. Eventually, other cast members followed suit, except for Michael Landon. He was fortunate enough to keep his full head of hair throughout the show's entire 14-year run, although he did resort to dyeing it occasionally to cover up any signs of graying. Speaking of Michael Landon, his contributions to Bonanza went far beyond just playing Little Joe. As the series progressed, he stepped behind the camera and directed several episodes, thanks to his meticulous perfectionist tendencies. Despite being one of the younger cast members, Landon wasn't shy about sharing his thoughts if he believed it would improve a scene. He frequently requested reshoots and paused filming to talk through character motivations, scene dynamics, or technical adjustments. While this behavior occasionally tested the patience of his co-stars and the crew, it often paid off, resulting in stronger, more compelling episodes. By now, it's widely known that Bonanza was a massive hit, but what might surprise fans is that it had some very famous admirers. Two music legends, Elvis Presley and Johnny Cash, were both fans of the show. Cash was actually the first artist to record a cover of the Bonanza theme song, which sparked a wave of other renditions by various musicians. While Elvis never covered the theme himself, his appreciation for the show helped solidify its place in pop culture. In the early days, Bonanza followed the typical mold of a Western series centered around a gunslinging frontier family. Initially, the Cartwrights were written as overly suspicious of anyone who came near the Ponderosa Ranch, often greeting strangers at gunpoint. It wasn't until the show had progressed to about its 8th or 9th episode that Lorne Greene voiced his concerns. The way he saw it, the characters were too hostile, and it wasn't the kind of show he had signed on for. He recalled telling the producers, "Why are we always pulling guns on people? These strangers don't even know where they are. This land stretches for thousands of miles." Green proposed a more humane approach. Instead of threatening newcomers, they should ask where they came from and offer them a place to stay. His suggestion transformed the tone of the series. Rather than continuing as another shoot-'em-up Western, Bonanza became a series grounded in warmth, compassion, and what Green called a four-letter word: love. Many fans may not know that Bonanza returned years later in the form of 3 made-for-TV movies, led by none other than Michael Landon Jr., son of Michael Landon and his second wife, Marjorie Lynn Noe. These films were created as a tribute to his father's legacy. The first installment, Bonanza: The Next Generation, premiered in 1988 and introduced Landon Jr. as Benjamin Cartwright, the son of Little Joe. Another new character, Aaron Cartwright, Benjamin's brother and the new head of the Ponderosa, was also added. Although the films didn't reach the same popularity as the original series, they served as a heartfelt homage. Landon Jr. continued playing Ben in the subsequent films and eventually transitioned into a successful career as a director and producer. He went on to executive produce Hallmark Channel's When Calls the Heart and its spin-off, When Hope Calls. Interestingly, Lorne Green's daughter, Gillian Green, also appeared in one of the films as Jennifer Sills, Ben's love interest. In real life, she's married to Spider-Man director Sam Raimi and has established herself as a producer. Dan Blocker's son, Dirk Blocker, carried on the family legacy too, appearing in several television films. There's also a lesser-known Bonanza prequel that aired from 2001 to 2002, set a decade before the original series. This version featured younger versions of Ben, Adam, Hoss, and Little Joe. The prequel was developed by David Dortort, the original creator, with Beth Sullivan stepping in as showrunner and head writer. Sadly, despite the strong concept, the prequel lasted only 1 season, largely due to its high production costs and disappointing ratings. If you enjoyed this deep dive into Bonanza, be sure to like and subscribe. And don't forget to hit the notification bell so you never miss our latest updates. Until next time, stay golden.